We have 6 NFL playoff games this weekend, and I have 2 player props for every game. I'm going to run through each one of those and hopefully get some winners for this weekend. We'll jump right into it. First game is Rams at Panthers in Carolina. For each one of these games, I just tried to pick one from each team that I thought had the best chance of actually hitting. For the Rams, I am going to go Devontae Adams to score a touchdown. He's coming back from that hamstring injury, but he said he's healthy and seems to be like he's going to be a full participant in the game. He said he could play last week and just decided to be cautious and not. But in his past 5 games, he's played really well. 5 total touchdowns, and 2 of them did come against the Panthers in Week 13. I believe he was held out of the last 3 games of the season, but now he does seem to be healthy and ready to go for the game this Saturday. And then also from the Rams-Panthers, I do have for the Panthers, Jalen Coker over 35.5 receiving yards. Now, this could be a little dependent on the weather. I did see that there might be some rain and wind during this game, but 35.5 does seem pretty low. He's been a solid number 2 option for the Panthers offense, and he's had 45 receiving yards in 4 or 5 previous games. So I do like his chances of hitting over 35.5. They did play the Rams Week 13, like I just previously said. He had 74 receiving yards on like 4 receptions, I believe. This game, I'll just go over here just to look at the spread and the over-under this one. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure what they mean with this line. 10.5's a lot of points considering the over-under's only 45.5. I guess they're expecting Carolina to really not score many points. But I did have a fun stat earlier. Let's see if I can find that. It should be way down here. Yes, right here. So in the last 20 years, road favorites by 4 or more points are 0-4 against the spread. So that would be Panthers at home, Rams coming into Carolina, being favored by 10.5, which is way more than 4. So this would lean Panthers at least covering the spread of 10.5. I think that's just too many points for a playoff game, especially in Carolina. Moving on to the later game Saturday, it is Packers-Bears. Had a little trouble with the player props for this game because I'm really not sure where these teams sit currently. The Packers are coming into this one having lost their last 4 games. One game was Week 18 where they did sit their starters, but they haven't really played that well and have definitely been a little banged up as of recent. But the one player who said he's healthy as can be is Josh Jacobs. I am going to take him for over 73.5 rushing yards. The Bears defense ranks 27th in the NFL against the run. And like I said, I think he said he feels as great as he's been in 6 weeks. So I do expect him to get going on the ground, especially against a defense who's vulnerable to the run. Their first matchup, so Packers-Bears in Week 14, he did run for 86 yards, and I'm assuming was a little healthier than he was down the stretch later in the season. So I think that's a good mark. Especially if Green Bay gets ahead, I think 73.5 is very doable for Jacobs. And then also in this game for the Bears, I do have Colston Loveland over 3.5 receptions. He's been a target monster for the Bears down the stretch late in the season. He had a 10-catch game in Week 18 where they did play their starters and were trailing like I think they could be in this first round of the playoffs. But he's also had 4 or more receptions in 4 of 5 past games. So he's been a solid target for Caleb Williams, and their receiving core is a little injured. I'm not exactly sure the status of Odunze and DJ Moore, but I do know they have been injured these past few weeks, on and off. I know Odunze didn't play in week 17 and 18, I believe. I'm not sure exactly about DJ Moore. And then moving on to the games on Sunday. There's 3 games on Sunday. The first one is Bills-Jags. This should be an interesting game. I believe it's the highest total of the weekend at 51.5 points, 52.5 depending on where you look. The Bills are currently favored by 1.5, although I wouldn't be surprised if Jacksonville won this game, considering it's at home. The only thing Josh Allen really has over them is experience in the playoffs, so I think that does kind of put him a notch above where the Jags are, especially Trevor Lawrence. They just don't have much experience in a playoff type atmosphere. For the Bills, I am going to go Josh Allen over 227 passing yards. He's coming into the game coming off a 262-yard pass game against Philly. He did sit last week, so this was in week 17, and Philly's a pretty good defense. So I definitely expect the Bills to capitalize on the Jags' weaker pass defense. They do have a pretty good rush defense. I believe, I'm not sure if they're ranked 1 or just ranked really well. I do know Jacksonville has a really good rush defense, but that's even more of a point for Allen to try to throw the ball more. And then for the Jags, the Bills have a really great pass defense. They're the opposite of the Jaguars. They have a terrible rush defense. They rank 28th in yards allowed per game, 136 yards allowed per game. ETN hasn't been solid these past few weeks, but I think 65.5 rushing yards over that's doable, just with the Bills' defense not being as strong as other defenses they've played recently. So I'm going to take ETN to go over the 65.5 rushing yards for that one. I'm not exactly sure who I lean in this one. I really like the Bills' experience they have in the playoffs, but home field advantage does matter, I think. And it's only 1.5, so Vegas obviously thinks this is going to be a close one. If I had to pick, I'd probably go the Bills just to win outright money line. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Jags won this game too. All right, Eagles 49ers would be the middle game on Sunday. It is in Philly. For the Eagles, I am going to go A.J. Brown over 65.5 receiving yards. The 49ers defense hasn't been as good as they've been in past years. Like I've talked about previously on some of these player props. They ranked 25th in pass defense this season. So I think if the Eagles are going to win this game, it should be through the air. They should try to expose this pass defense. Brown has also been over 65.5 receiving yards in 4 of 5 previous games. So has a pretty good hit rate. And then pairing that with the 49ers' weak secondary, I think this is a recipe for Brown to go over 65.5. I'm not exactly sure what Jalen Hurts' yards are, but I also would maybe throw something on that too, depending on what that is. Him to go over his passing yards. I like the passing game for Philly. And then for the 49ers, I had a little trouble figuring out what to do. I am going to take Christian McCaffrey for just a anytime touchdown in this one. It's kind of hard to get away from him. He's a touchdown machine. He's got 5 total touchdowns in 5 previous games. That's combined. But the Eagles have a good defense overall. Their one weakness would be through the rush at times. They have a great secondary, although Their defensive line has been a little beat up, and they haven't been as good against the rush as the pass as far as yards allowed. So I'm going to take Christian McCaffrey to get in the end zone. If the 49ers do score, I expect it to be him or Kittle. So I think that's a safe as can be bet for the 49ers. And then the late game on Sunday is Chargers-Patriots. The Patriots are coming into this one definitely on a hot streak. And Travion Henderson has looked really well at times and then looked kind of weak at times. He also had a concussion a few weeks ago, so that kind of scares me off of this play a little bit too. But all 4 of his past games, he's been over 52.5, where he's played the full game. There's one game in between the two games that he left early with a concussion, but all 4 games where he played the full game, he's been over 52.5. The Chargers do have a great defense overall. They are slightly better against the pass than the rush. That's why I'm going to take Henderson rushing. And I think this is going to be a big challenge for New England. They got criticized all season for the strength of schedule, which they couldn't really help. You play who you play, and they are favored in this game. So I do like the chances that they'll get up in this game and allow Henderson to run in this one. So over 52.5, you can even bump that down a little bit too. And then on the Charger side, the only under, actually I lie. I have 2 unders in the player props. One under is this Lad McConkey to go under 41.5 receiving yards. He really just hasn't been involved as much as I thought he would be in the offense. He's only been over 41.5 one time in his last 5 games. Herbert really spreads the ball out, and they also don't throw a ton. They have a pretty good run game. It seems like they're in games where they just either time of possession is a problem or they're leaning on the run more than the pass. But also Keenan Allen's there. Gadsden, their tight end, has been a good option. And they have a bunch of like role type wide receivers that just get kind of some targets here and there. So I'm going to take Ladd under 41.5 receiving yards. This just kind of stood out to me because he's only cleared that in 1 of 5 games. And then Monday, the only game Monday, is Texans at Steelers. I am going to take Aaron Rodgers to go under 1.5 passing touchdowns. The Texans defense is ranked number 1 in total defense in the NFL. They've only allowed 20 passing touchdowns on the season, so I think this is going to be a challenge for the Steelers' offense. Rodgers also has only thrown 2 or more touchdowns in 1 of his last 5 games as well, and they have definitely been against easier opponents than the Texans. So I like the Texans' defense a lot in this game. I think they should definitely dominate. I really wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers don't score more than like 2 touchdowns. I'm going to go Rodgers under 2 touchdowns passing. And then for the Texans, I'm going to go Nico Collins over 71.5 receiving yards. The Steelers' pass defense has been really bad. They're 29th ranked as far as yards allowed. They give up 243 passing yards per game. And Stroud looked pretty good in Week 18. He pretty much threw for 200 yards in the first half of their Week 18 game. And this defense is worse. So I'm expecting Nico Collins to play well. He actually wasn't even on the field last week. I think he was rested in Week 18. And Stroud even looked good then. So I expect him to slot right back in as wide receiver 1 and be the biggest threat on the Texans' offense. So over 71.5 to play for the Texans. Now, I just wanted to go over and look at the games for this week. I did kind of put out who I thought was going to win earlier in the week. But just to go over kind of my lean now going into Saturday, which is tomorrow. This Rams-Panthers, I think if it came down to it, I would probably take the Panthers plus the 10.5. But I do think the Rams are going to win this one. That 0-4 as a road favorite by more than 4 points is just kind of a crazy stat. And 10.5, so many points. So I think I would take the Panthers plus 10.5, Rams straight up in this one on Saturday. And then the later game, Packers-Bears. I'd probably lean Green Bay to win. Although I really wouldn't be shocked if the Bears won late in a close game, probably low scoring. It's one of the lowest over-unders of the weekend. I know the Texans and the Steelers is kind of an outlier, but I'd probably go Packers money line in this one. And then Sunday, Bills at Jags. I think I'm going to stick with the Bills money line. For this, the Bills, Jags, and the Packers, Bears, there's really no point of taking the minus 1.5. Just bet the money line. It's minus 112 for Buffalo and minus 125 for Green Bay. Just the slight, time they win by only 1 point or something like that, just to make sure you have them just to win. So I'm going to stick with the Bills there. And then 49ers at Philly. I think the Eagles win this game. It's a home game for Philly. I think they have a better defense, probably a better offense. McCaffrey and Kittle are definitely dynamic players, but the Eagles' defense has been really, really great. So I'd expect low scoring. The Eagles also jumped up to minus 5.5, I see now. So they're even favored by a little more than what it opened at 3 points. So definitely Eagles to win. As far as the spread goes, I'd probably still take the Eagles just to win by a touchdown, by 7. So I like the Eagles money line. I also like them minus the 5.5. And then to wrap up Sunday is Chargers at Patriots. I do like the Patriots to win this game straight up. I might think about taking the Chargers plus the 3.5 though. They're a good team and they do have a really good defense. Both these defenses, I believe, are top 8 overall defenses as far as yards allowed per game. So they both have great rush and pass defenses. I expect it to be low scoring. Honestly, New England really hasn't faced many challenges on offense. So they could definitely struggle here. Also, really no experience for that Patriots team. I mean, there's obviously some players that do have playoff experience, but for the most part, they're coming in with a team, second-year quarterback, rookie running back, couple rookie wide receivers, rookie on the offensive line. So it's definitely a young group on the offense. And then on Monday, it is Texans at Steelers. I think if I had to lean one way, it would probably be Texans to win this one. I just think their defense is too good. And whatever they get from their offense will be what it is. Stroud's looked great at times. He's also looked kind of weak at times, but he is getting help. Their Steelers secondary is old and not that good. As I mentioned earlier, I think they ranked 29th against the pass. So it's really set up for Stroud to excel in this one. And it's going to be tough on the Steelers offense. Even with DK Metcalf coming back, it's going to be tough sledding, I think, for the Steelers offense. It's a great opponent in the Texans defense. So that pretty much wraps up all the games for this weekend and all the player props. If you want to find the player props and then find the parlays, they're going to be on my Twitter. It's just Nolan Klein Bets. You can find it right here. And then also obviously on YouTube. Anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure to hit the like button, hit the sub button. I'll be doing player props and game breakdowns throughout the playoffs into the Super Bowl and then jumping into other sports like NBA, MLB. Super excited to do that as well. But for now, let's have a great weekend. Hopefully a bunch of these bets hit, and I will be coming out with parlays as the weekend moves on.